Well, foot flexibility and point, the arch of the foot. Technically, they're looking at lines, the same as ballet all the time, so they will be looking for turnout of the foot and point, a nice arched foot. In order to aid that, they've removed the metal
stiffener.
In the sole of the foot.
Okay.
And
so it flexes more.
That aids the arch and the point and gives the flexion that they need. But again, there is no real support there when they go up on
yes, because
on
again,
point.
as opposed to a ballet shoe where there's a lot of support from the shank.
Yeah.
You don't really have that, especially in the light pump.
I mean, again,
but it's not designed. You're not spending 6-8 hours a day on point.
No, definitely not. No.
So it would only be a very, very short.
They're fleeting movements,
okay.
And they're kind of moments in time.
Okay.
So, but they don't spend anywhere near the time that a ballet dancer would do on point. Okay.
Okay, here we are. Hello, everybody. Live from down sunny Dundalk in Ireland, and with me today I've got Pat Roddy. So I've known Pat for probably 15 years or so now.
Yeah.
And so Pat is a ex-world champion Irish dancer, 2-time. First of all, when you were 13.
Mm-hmm.
I think you started competing at the age of first world championship at the age of 8.
8, yeah.
Then you went on to had a career spanned 7 years in Riverdance.
Yep.
And you were lead dancer in New York on Broadway with Riverdance.
On Broadway for 18 months, yeah.
18 months, yeah. So tell us all about.
I suppose. Well, my parents were dance teachers, so it was kind of a very natural path to get involved in, and taken along to class in my younger years, and kind of just immersed in that pastime and
born into it.
You were
your mum was dance teacher when you were in the womb. That's where you got your rhythm.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Just kind of second nature, and but we loved it. It was great. A huge number of friends, and just socially it was a great pastime to be involved in.
Yes.
Not the trendiest pastime for a male.
Okay.
So that had its difficulties, particularly during teenage years.
Yes.
But I suppose then you know.
I thought that'd be a great way to meet girls.
I was just going to say every cloud has a silver lining. You get to an age where you're meeting more girls than the lads are. So. No, but it was great. I enjoyed my time dancing competitively, and at that time, really, if you reached a certain age, 16, 17, 18 years of age, by the time you were ready to go to college, that's traditionally when your competitive career would kind of peter out and finish.
Because there was nowhere else to go after that.
Exactly.
But before, we'll get on to Riverdance in a minute. Before Riverdance, that was it. You were. As you say, went off to college then, and would people then have just sort of danced recreationally then, or
some people would,
just completely.
Most people would give it up just because of the commitments that college demands.
Yeah.
Other people would use it as an outlet and continue to compete, or just as you said, just for recreational purposes.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, so like your dad was 3 times world champion. I mean, how did he just finish that when he got to sort of 19, 20 and never danced again, sort of thing, or?
Pretty much, yeah. He won the senior men's 3 times, and
I think the only person to do it 3 times ever in a row.
Only ever equalled by one guy, Colin Dunn, since arguably, in my opinion, one of the best that there's ever been. So it's something that he can be very proud of. It's a lovely legacy to have.
But did he just stop dancing then?
He stopped. He
He
started to teach at that point, and of course he was working because there was no professional outlet.
Yeah.
At that point, they did a couple of tours with the Chieftains.
Yes.
Who are for any of our friends overseas, I'm sure they'll be familiar with them.
Yes.
But beyond that, there wasn't really much of an outlet or opportunity.
And so so the world of dance, Irish dance, changed then with Riverdance.
Completely transformed. I mean, it's an art form that's been evolving over many years and been influenced by other dance forms, particularly ballet. Tap, elements of tap introduced as well, more intricate rhythm patterns and combinations. But I think
you've talked about before. I mean, it's really evolved then now from a sport.
It is a sport. Yeah, it is a sport.
But it's evolved from a very individual sport, and you did dance in teams. Do something then that transported then to you have to make it a show.
I mean, that's what kind of, I suppose, it brought it to a much broader audience, and globally, just an incredible,
Took off. I mean, because I know from before, I mean, the World Irish Dancing Champions that gets up to the 80s or 90s were just in Ireland. That was it.
That was it. Yeah.
People did fly in from abroad.
Yeah, from all over, America, Australia. And all over Europe.
Irish-centric.
But based in Ireland every single year until the early noughties.
Okay.
They brought it overseas for the first time, and it's been in America a couple of times. It's been in Canada. It's been in London. It's been in Glasgow. So they seem to alternate it now, and it has huge appeal, and people travel. For it every single year.
Because there would have been small pockets of expats in different parts of the world, and actually we've got a question in from Venezuela later on, and South America, and so that would have been expat small communities. But after Riverdance, there was a worldwide explosion and.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I mean, even Argentina. There are some Argentinian Irish dance teachers.
Yes.
Now adjudicators. So it's incredible how Riverdance kind of introduced Irish dance to the world. Yeah.
And
a
I think
whole
you
new
talked about
audience.
before. I mean, dance classes were oversubscribed. I mean, it just.
Waiting lists to get into a class on the back of the success of Riverdance. Kids wanted to do it. They wanted to emulate Gene Butler or Michael Flatley, Colin Dunn, whoever it was.
Yes.
And just a huge transformation.
Yeah.
From what was a
niche.
A niche. Yeah. It was a small.
And especially because one of my patients previously owned the Talbot Street Dance Centre in Dublin. Talbot Street, obviously. And I mean, he's a huge overseas business. That's where the majority of his business is from, for shoes, and for all the DVDs and all the stuff. It all goes overseas. Limited in Ireland, huge abroad.
Still the same. Friend of mine locally here, Kieran Wall, Boyne Walk, dancewear. They'll ship everywhere. America again, Australia. Huge market in Asia for it.
Yeah.
The same in Phase in Dublin. Phase dance shoes are top notch as well, all handmade, and
Because
they'll
following on from our ballet talk with Tom Novella a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, footwear is an essential component of the dance, and Irish dance is different from ballet, where you would have a soft shoe,
Yes.
and then what they call a heavy shoe.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about
the soft shoe. Is just basically it's a pump for girls.
Yes.
Just a flat leather sole on it. There's no block or toe box in it, and so it's very difficult for them, and not too many. I suppose it's only an elite female dancer will try and go up on point, but never bear full load when they do it in soft shoe.
Okay.
In contrast, the hard shoe again is it's just a leather shoe.
But it's hard. It's heavy.
It's
we call it a heavy shoe.
It's heavy, yeah. Heavy in terms of sound. Now they've tried to scale it back in terms of weight. It has a heel that's about an inch and a quarter, and
it has a solid box toe.
The toe piece is fiberglass toe piece. Yeah, they've squared it off over the last decade to aid kids going up on point.
Yes.
Which is good, but there's nothing within the shoe. There is no again, like they have in ballet. There is no toe box within the shoe to aid it. So it's kind of it's different than ballet, and it's something that I would like to see introduced.
Yeah. Would you like to see introduced?
I suppose I would like to see more provisions made within the actual shoe manufacturing industry to try and cater for the movements that they're doing, particularly on point.
Because they have, again, the mid-foot, the mid-shank has changed.
It has changed, in
the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, foot flexibility and point, the arch of the foot. Technically, they're looking at lines, the same as ballet all the time, and so they will be looking for turnout of the foot and point, a nice arched foot. In order to aid that, they've removed the metal
stiffener.
In the sole of the foot.
Okay.
And
so it flexes more.
That aids the arch and the point and gives the flexion that they need. But again, there is no real support there when they go up on
yes, because
on
again,
point.
As opposed to a ballet shoe where there's a lot of support from the shank.
Yeah.
You don't really have that, especially in the light pump.
I mean, again,
but it's not designed. You're not spending 6-8 hours a day on point.
No, definitely not. No.
So it would only be a very, very short.
They're fleeting movements,
okay.
And they're kind of moments in time. So, but they don't spend anywhere near the time that a ballet dancer would do on point.
Okay. And yes.
That being said, their technique doesn't resemble that of a ballet dancer on point either.
Yes.
So there are huge, vast variations of the delivery of those types of movements.
I mean, the shoes have developed because there's obviously there's shoes for jazz dancing, there's shoes for Lindy Hop dancing, for ballet, for contemporary, for Latin dance. I mean, but I'm sure they're borrowing bits off each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the shoe development.
Yeah, definitely. Although, I mean, to a point. I mean, the biggest part of the heavy shoe aspect of the dance is the rhythm. That's why the toe piece is as big as it is.
Yeah.
And that's, musicality and rhythm are of paramount importance in relation to that aspect of
because
things.
you did talk about again the aesthetic look and the form and and I know we have talked before about again wanting to get into a smaller shoe and smaller is more beautiful and things. But of course in Irish dancing it is all about form and posture. Because because in competition dancing, there's
so the upper body and arms remain completely still. So it removes that natural counterbalance that we have in every other aspect of life. Walking, running, swimming, cycling. There is a counterbalance built in between upper body and lower body.
I mean, that would be difficult then in terms of mechanical point of view, that if you're restricted in certain body part movements, that will have a knock-on effect into lower limb.
It can, yeah.
So does that make then actually working or dressing compromise issues? I think Tom talked about in the last dance medicine chat about it's all cheating. Everything's cheat.
Yeah.
There are aspects of that. I mean, you want to try and get them. You want fluid. You want the dancer to be fluid within their movement. And you try and disguise the movement. If it's something that they're struggling with, if it's something that their body is resisting, or the upper body or arms particularly want to get involved, then you have to try and disguise it as best you can. So you try and help disguise it through different cheats.
And I mean, certainly, I mean, we're talking about competitive level and competitive type of this, because there is recreational Irish dancing and
of course, and
things. There are dance schools which
and there are non-competitive classes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in terms of elite dancers, and I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I think Irish dance is the only where you are elite at 7 or 8 years of age type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the level that you people. So, I mean, in terms of sort of like training regime and the work and the passion that has to go in to get to that level.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about before in terms of I mean, there's certain things that you got to work on posture, you got to work on fitness, you got to work on.
Yeah.
What are the key things that you got to look at?
So they go through a grade system, and a grade system like right from beginner level up to what they term championship level or open level.
Yeah.
At that point, you've ticked all the boxes, the basic boxes, the requirements.
Yeah.
You know, again, timing, turnout, technique, posture, you know, rhythm, musicality. All those things are taken into account.
Are focused on through every session, or are these at different stages of the season then? Because I mean, there's a season, as in there's a ballet season, there's competitive season that goes on right throughout the year when you peak for the championships.
Yeah.
And there's qualifiers and.
Well, for again, if you're going in from a beginner's point of view, again, you have that period of kind of trying to learn the basics.
Because how old did you start? 4?
4, yeah.
Well, before that.
So you kind of you serve your time, if you like.
Because you went to first World Championships at 8.
At 8, yes, yeah.
So you were elite at 8. There's not many other sports where
dancing at that championship.
An elite athlete at 8 years of age.
You qualify regionally for your World Championships, and so yeah, I would have had to have qualified at 8 years of age in order to compete.
Yes.
So it's only the best, you know, from all of the different regions around the world that are eligible to compete at that point. Yeah.
And when you're working with dancers now, because you work with world champion dancers or people who are aspire to be, you know, that's what you do. In terms of that season and that development, I mean, there's obviously a lot of where you've got to peak for this, and then you've got to. Talk us, lay it out a little bit about what the season entails.
Yeah, years ago when I competed, we would start our conditioning, if you like, in mid-August.
Okay.
And you would start prepping for working towards our regional, our qualifier for the world, which would normally take place at the end of October, the start of November. Mm-hmm. And after that, there were 3 majors at the time when I competed. There are now 5, possibly 6 majors, depending on if you want to travel
people will
around the world, and they'll do the 6 if they qualify.
So that's a huge load.
Yeah, financially, but also in terms of workload. I mean, it's
because you did
it's a huge
before. We
commitment.
have talked about before. Somebody did fly in from the States one time for a competition in Ireland and booked a seat for their dance costume.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how much they.
Nuts.
How much they value.
Well, yeah, it's a
so
big.
it can be it's an expense in terms of time and effort and commitment and money wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
especially at that level.
Yeah.
So you will get people who will need to peak 5 times a year.
Definitely, and that's what I want to take. That's what I've been looking at in order to kind of help them taper and and introduce kind of periodization, if you like, in terms of their training methods, so that they don't try and maintain one level of fitness for the year, because kids
you can't do that.
You can't do it. But that's what they're breaking down,
because you would have had to do that when you were performing.
Yeah. Professionally, it's different.
Professionally, yes.
Because you're dancing day in, day out. You need to dance at a certain standard.
You don't have school, you don't have things, you don't have all
that's it. If there are rehearsals
the
called,
things that are going on in a teenager's life. I'm sure there's different attractions when you're young, free and dancing for Riverdance in New York, but we'll get onto those later.
Okay.
There's other distractions perhaps. But yeah, back to that season again.
Yeah. But professionally, if there are rehearsals called, you're expected to dance at a certain level, because that's what they want to see. That's what the producers, directors, that's what the managers need to see and need to be assured that that's the level that you can perform at and will perform at each and every show.
Yes. Because that was something we touched on with Tom a couple of weeks ago, was that for people now to then have to have this sort of enforced layoff that we now have, which has been really good for a lot of people carrying long-term injuries, because it's been an enforced rest, as you know, to get somebody to stop dancing, to stop performing, to stop sport.
Yes.
Treated runners and triathletes, and get them to scale back is now impossible. So this has been a good enforced layoff. And helped people to really sort injuries and rehab them
Absolutely,
properly. But then, will there not be then quite a curve then to get back up to that level?
Definitely, yeah. Well, for us, this pandemic came about a month or 5 weeks out from the World Championships, so that was cancelled unfortunately this year.
So all that work from
understandably
August is
done. Done. Now a lot of kids will have had a rest of some description. Some kids will have continued to work.
Because there's been lots of Zoom and Ballet Zoom and
of course,
all over the world. I've seen
online classes.
Online,
which is great, and it's an interest and it's a focus for the kids. It's a way that they can continue to dance, continue to learn new material, perfect things. But in terms of working towards something, they don't really have a major to work towards now until the start of November.
Okay.
So it's quite a way.
Because that was interesting. I think it was with David McGettigan we spoke about last week, was especially with the advent of Zoom and online consultations. It's great. You can see movement.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Anthony,
anywhere in the world.
Anthony Claffey mentioned it too. I mean, but it's fantastic. You can see it. You can explain it. They
can feel it.
The client is more engaged because they have to assume more responsibility within the session. So I think it's good. Yeah, definitely. Now, from a dancing point of view, there's nothing like being there in person, because, again, aesthetically, there's so much going on that it's nice to see it.
Yeah, because in a competitive dance school, I mean, the dance teacher isn't only the teacher. The dance teacher is the arm around the person.
Exactly.
Is the driver for them, is the channeling of them.
They motivate. They motivate. They console. They wear many different hats.
And of course then, I mean, it must be pretty difficult then, again, hormones raging at things. I mean, certainly, and we've touched upon before, changes in hormonal changes in skeletal maturity and things. And I mean, there's obviously certain stages that you go through where you're then allowed to progress on. So again, in ballet, it says to be 12 or 13 to progress on to point. So it's similar.
Yeah, point work is restricted until you're 13 years of age within competitive Irish dance.
But it isn't just you're 13 and now you're good to go. You have to meet certain criteria before they'll let you progress.
They will. I mean, in terms of point, I mean, any teacher work their salt will have a dancer perfect the technique first. But I mean, unfortunately, and it's the same at every, you've got kids that want to do the same choreography as their friends, but maybe they're not technically able or fit to do that.
Because that's what they always want to improve. I mean, especially the kids who are at that level.
Of course, and
focused.
But sometimes that's to their detriment. Certainly competitively, if they're not able to execute stuff technically, then that's when they will fall down in
because Irish
competition.
dancing is different. Well, no, possibly not different from, but there are old traditional. I mean, it's a traditional routine set that you have to perform at. Everybody does the same, so it's. Yeah,
you get your dances at the start of the year. Every even age group, for example, under 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s will dance a jig as their heavy dance. Girls will dance a slip jig alongside that, and then your final round is what's called a set dance. That's a dance of your choice.
But from a set.
Yeah, the music is a traditional piece of music, and the choreography for each dance is at your discretion or the discretion of your teacher or school.
Freestyle.
Yeah, pretty well. I mean, freestyle. Yeah, but I mean, danced to the music that is set at particular speeds in rounds 1 and 2. In the third round, I suppose
you have to dance 3 rounds.
3, yeah. Not everybody does, but they take the strongest half of the competition, and they get to dance the third round. And as I said, that's a piece of music and choreography that's danced at a speed of your choice and your and your piece of music.
And then and again, so loading, and that's some of the questions that come in. So we'll maybe touch on a couple of questions and relate that into loading and peaking and things. So Georgina again in Christchurch, the dance podiatrist in Christchurch, New Zealand. We're back to midfoot again.
Okay.
So have you found a way to stabilise the midfoot in hard shoes doing toes or point?
Yeah.
So
difficult, Georgina, in that there's no real support within the shoe itself. The toe piece will offer a form of support, but actually what Tom Novella said was probably resonated with me most in relation to trying to strengthen perineals as stabilizers and
you got to start core, glutes, everything's got to be strengthened.
But what Tom said I think is probably most relevant to that question in terms of stability and strength in order to stabilize and execute the movement.
Flexor longus and perineals are essential. Especially up onto the toes, onto the point.
And that's on point. We spend as dancers, spend an awful lot of time on demi points, which is on the ball of the foot. But when you're up on point again, you want everything working.
And of course, Tom had a really good point, was that if you're doing a lot of rehab on the perineals and just rehab it, forget about, you could end up overloading the FHL and perpetuating the tendinitis there. And they're repetitive strain injuries, which one of the most common injuries for Irish dancers certainly is plantar fasciitis. Well, it's certainly one of the most diagnosed injuries. But again, most of what I've seen with Irish dance, especially on the still maturing skeleton, it severs heel pains. Some of the osteochondrosis things. Haven't seen any Kohler's, but I have seen Kohler's problems. But I have seen navicular stress fractures, and I think that's what our colleague in Belfast, Sean, has talked about. He's seen quite a few stress fractures. And of course, then that brings us on to then being on demi point and on forefoot. The next question for Georgina is sesamoid problems. Just talking about sesamoids, I always really struggle to treat them. Because when they get, they're so small, they're so essential, and they're going to load through them. And we used to see a lot on X-rays when we X-rayed a lot of feet. You would see every dozen, 14, 16 people would have a bipartite sesamoid. There was two-piece sesamoid, and never any symptoms of stuff. But I think when you actually sort of did a skyline view on the sesamoid, there would be, there should have been a cartilage between the base of the metatarsal and the sesamoid. You would see that joint space close down, and if it was quite advanced, then you would actually be bone on bone. When you're at that stage, it's like, it's a real struggle. What really changed me in terms of treating that was when I started to mobilise and manipulate feet and change alignment then, because that's Georgina's question again from New Zealand is can't really do, all you can do is really dome pad a sesamoid, donut pad to offload it. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you.
Drop it up.
Just a splash, please. Thank you. Just a dome pad. But the other thing I do from an anatomy and motion point of view is just assess your points of contact. Are we getting contact between first and fifth, or has that base of support decreased? Lovely, Alan. Thank you. Sound. Thank you very much. And sometimes what happens is the base of support doesn't span between first and fifth, and becomes smaller. And so to try and reintroduce those movements to the foot, similar to your foot mob, but by just doing small anatomy and motion exercises with wedges.
We'll talk about the way you work to make world champions in a bit in terms of the anatomy and motion. Well, especially the light shoe, there's no room in it at all.
There is a very, very small pad in it,
Okay.
But again,
to put anything extra in is
for aesthetics, then they tend to lean towards a smaller shoe as it is.
Yeah.
The issue that I have with that is that they never really get to fully maximize the potential, in terms of in terms of the dorsiflexion of the metatarsal phalangeal joints.
Okay.
So that's an issue because it restricts the potential that the foot has because of their preference for aesthetics.
Because I used to try with donut pads, everybody knows that, with a hole cut out in the middle.
Yeah.
But then you could do a net dome to try and 2, 3, 4 and take the pressure off. And, But again, then does that weaken in longer term? Does that weaken intrinsics? And taping.
Possibly.
Tape the toes.
A lot of people will.
Must be. What was your routine? What did you have in your shoes on
honestly,
Broadway?
You know what I wore? I wore a pair of Dr. Scholl's gel insoles. Yeah.
That was it.
I used to get the
High
shoes
tech.
half a size bigger. I was ahead of my time, definitely, in Irish dancing terms.
Yeah.
But no real tape, thankfully. If you looked at my feet,
You never had really any foot problems.
No, if you looked at my feet now, you wouldn't say that they're the feet of a dancer because they don't have the same.
You danced with people who were never out of the medical room or were never out of stress fractures or were never.
Well, I mean, summertime is never a great time for a dancer because flip flops, sandals. You can spot a dancer.
Yeah.
A mile off. You can see their feet.
Awful feet, great legs, and other bits. But it's destroy. Yeah, and again, but that sort of, and again, that getting onto the more professional side of things. It's a ruthless business.
Of course, yeah.
If you're not able to perform, as you say, at that stage, if you're spending too much time in the medical room, you get a stress fracture.
Yeah,
that's a major issue for a dancer at that level.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you're in part of a company that will look after you.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to break in or out of season or contract, it could be a.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, difficult on so many levels. Dancers are some of the most driven and focused individuals you'll ever meet.
You didn't get where you were without being driven and focused?
At one point, yeah.
I mean,
sure.
I take dance kids and they're to be that focused at that age, to have to be that driven,
this is what
to
they
put
want
in
to
that
do.
time, effort, blood, sweat and tears,
above
all else.
And they need to have thicker skin than most because, all of their classes are filled with, critique, correction. No, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
One more, Brian. I'll have them both then.
Yeah. But so the critique and correction that fills most classes can be enough to dent somebody's confidence. So they need to be able to take all of those things in their
because especially
stride.
being that young, excuse me. And again, 12, 13, there's a lot of hormonal change going on. There's a lot of psychosexual changes going on. You can talk about and then especially now with the advent of social media and which has been a good way in terms of developing Irish dance across the world.
Yeah.
But also then makes them very, very, as you say, you've got to have a thick skin. You've got to be very, very secure in yourself at that level. Because you can watch somebody in Argentina who you're going to compete against next month dance live.
Absolutely.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's that whole.
Yeah, well, it means you could. They really get very little time now to switch off. And
but they
switch
live
off
it. They live
physically
it.
and mentally. Yes, but it takes a toll. It can take a toll eventually on them again. But I suppose it's great in terms of advertisement. It's great in terms of being able to monitor, fellow competitors' progress and successes and accomplishments. But there is very little time to switch off or detach. I think that's important to detach from that and just focus on you and be the best that you can be within it instead of getting distracted and sidetracked with all the fanfare that comes along
distractions
with
in New York. And so,
with
what's that?
Facebook.
What's that like? Because when you first danced in Riverdance, it was Radio City was when you did your first.
Yeah.
You said the worst stage in the world.
Well, it was a different stage for us, because they have that hydraulic
for the Rockettes to
system
pop out
with the
of
lifts
and stuff.
And when we went to it, they neglected to spring the floor enough, and we were there for 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, that was
still feeling it.
That was a tough station. But anytime we went back there afterwards, they went in and they built their own floor.
Yeah, and where you were 3 years.
We passed through there, every single time we went. I mean, we had runs in Radio City that were, I think, 6 weeks long, which was incredible. It's a beautiful theatre, 6,500 or 6,800.
What's that like?
The theatre?
No. To go out and perform like this in front of 6,000 people.
It's great.
Because again, your dad never got a chance to do that. A lot of people who were leading dancers in the world 30 years ago wouldn't have got that exposure because of the explosion. So what's that like, Pat?
Initially, it was the greatest. It's the greatest adrenaline rush you can ever experience. It really is.
What's it like to lead a troupe like that at that level?
It's a different ball game,
Because you were. I mean, you're world champion at 13, again at 15, 16, then into Riverdance at 17. Yeah. Chosen, and 2 years later, you were a year or two. You were. I mean, you were it.
Riverdance had taken off. I mean, we had the Point Theatre in Dublin, and I think the audiences may have been in around 4,000 for people that went from a competitive atmosphere.
I can't remember after the 25-year anniversary I can't remember how many millions have seen Riverdance live across the world.
The statistics are. I mean, they call it a phenomenon. It definitely, in Irish dancing terms,
world terms, everybody knows Riverdance. Everybody knows. Whether you say whether you're in Azerbaijan or Inner Mongolia or Venezuela.
I suppose it's
everybody.
It's international.
So at that elite level. And how do you maintain? As you say, there's a certain level that when you're performing that, and how long was a run for? 8 weeks, 8 weeks, and then a week or two off on holiday.
No, you could be on tour for 6 months and have 2 weeks off. Right. So you were going.
So 6 nights a week on a matinee.
6 nights a week, 8 shows a week.
Eight
contractually obliged to do 6 or 7, so you get a show off. So honestly, you had to mind yourself.
Diet, no late nights.
I mean,
no boozing.
In hindsight, I probably could have minded myself a little more, but we were young.
You were in New York. You were 20.
We had a great time, and
in the 90s, imagine that 20s living in New York, dancing with Riverdance.
It was
your
great.
Own world was gone. Because I mean, that from. Because the normal path, if you hadn't gone to Riverdance, would have been on to college, on to PT school, on to college. This changed
that was it. Yeah,
changed a lot of people's lives.
Maybe go and teach.
Your sister danced with Riverdance as well.
She did, yeah. She was a lead dancer also.
Your cousins, and you've got
absolutely,
the whole dynasty.
Yeah. We're kind of a big dancing family, so.
I mean that. That talking to other performers who performed at that, whether it's music or in sport. That buzz and that adrenaline and that. I can't remember who was saying, when they come off tour for 2-3 weeks, they're bouncing off the walls at 9 o'clock at night because they're
difficult to go to sleep straight away after you come off. You've done 2.5 hours.
Does that help performance to have that?
It helps performance.
You were 5 months in, are you still getting the butterflies in the stomach before you're making your...
Of course, because there's a lot of responsibility attached to being a principal dancer.
Yep.
You want things... People are seeing the show for the very first time. You want them to enjoy it. You want them to remember it. You want to perform your best.
Yep.
You want to put your best foot forward.
Literally.
So, and I mean, but with that comes responsibility, and you have to mind yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to look after your body. You have to prepare each and every day for the show. So for an 8 o'clock show, I was in at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, because the day of the dancer, and that was always intrigued me when I first heard Tom lecture way back in the late 90s, was the routine. So give us a day in the life of when you're in and you haven't had a late. Say you got to bed at 2. Mm-hmm. Tell me through the day.
I would sleep late. I'd have a late breakfast.
What would you eat? Was that then as much as sort of?
Yeah, honestly, we were burning. You were burning that many calories that
whatever you get into.
Diet, yeah. So it was just whatever I whatever was going to give me most energy. But generally, it was good, good food.
Yeah.
And a late lunch, something very small before I went in to the theatre.
And would you, I mean, during the day, so when you say slept late, what, 11, 12 o'clock sort of thing, and then got up and have
11 o'clock, and if I had 2 shows in New York on Broadway, I did 2 shows on a Sunday. I would stay in bed on a Sunday until after lunch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do much. I mean, honestly,
when you get up in the morning, you stretch, you do anything, you other
Sunday was
little
spent
routine?
just recovering. I would do a little bit of stretching,
before you hit the stage door.
Yeah. And then when I got into the theatre, I used to get a massage at 5 o'clock, 20-minute massage, just to try and help loosen things up.
Yeah.
And then I had my own kind of stretching routine, and I warmed up gradually for about an hour and a half before I joined everybody else.
Did they do group?
They did a group
warm-ups?
They did a group warm-up about an hour before the show.
Yeah.
But again, each person had their own little routines or little, and everybody has their own stuff going on physically.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you put your shoes on a different way or same way all the time and lace them.
Yeah.
And did you, apart from the gel insoles of the show thin, was there anything else that you used to use regularly in a shoe? Or
I used to.
you say you never really had foot issues?
No, I had a couple of sprained ankles and that, but thankfully I was lucky in that regard. No, I used to do just a little bit of kind of calf work and stuff just to try and get things going.
Yeah. And would there have been sort of programs then bringing in younger dancers then to like sort of fast track in terms of prehab before they were
for the show professionally, or they would introduce
but that
younger
dancers.
Changed.
Yeah, as it's gone on over the years.
They would introduce younger dancers, for a number of weeks to kind of let them find their feet and experience it and see the standard and the levels that they expected of them, and also if they were doing corporate stuff, these younger dancers were taken and they were able to fly off and do one-off gigs, if you like, whether it be promotional stuff or stuff for
and then so you would perform and the show would last
2.5 hours. Yeah,
okay.
2.5 hours. So it was quite the workout.
No shit.
Yeah.
And then after, warm down, anything stretch or,
cool down.
Or straight out?
No,
Everybody
definitely
out.
Cool down. I spent probably about a half an hour, 35 minutes trying to kind of cool down and stretch out after that.
Yeah.
It just makes
ice baths,
it makes
anything
the next
like that, massage after?
No massage after it. People would step into ice baths after, if but again,
good, especially if if you say a double show on a Sunday, you got to be 3-4 hours ready. You got to go another 2.5.
Sunday evening was an interesting show. First half was fine. Second half, I mean, I used to have to lie with my legs up a wall on
off
Sunday.
stage before you get back on. Sort of
in between shows, no,
right.
just in between the 2 shows. I mean, once you got going again, you were fine. But that was a big challenge every week
because of course Riverdance again changed Irish dance from a very regimented, fixed on the spot thing to an extravaganza show where it was
show-wise. We got to use the upper half of our bodies for the very first time.
Yeah.
And I suppose as dancers, that opened up a whole new world for us in terms of adding to the art form and exploring new ways of dance. And it also assisted movement, because movement when you're only dancing from here down can be quite restricted, and it can come with its own, it can inhibit.
Yeah, because again, most colleagues who would be normally working with runners, footballers, cricketers, whatever, with skiers.
Yeah.
I mean, you can change, you can compensate by using the whole body. I mean, anatomy and motion is very much a whole body integrated flow motion model of biomechanics.
Yeah.
So then if you have to be so rigid from here up, how then does that affect mechanics lower down and vice versa? And then if you can't then change shoulder position to compensate for whatever else is happening in the flow model, how does that work in them with dance?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, your movement is just inhibited. When you learn it from, a very young age, your body adjusts and adapts
Well,
to
it's
that
like,
particular.
It's like breathing. If we talk with Gary about it, it's like it's just natural.
Yeah,
You don't really have to think.
It happens, but sometimes as a therapist, you have to cue somebody or remind them to breathe, or you have to kind of remind them that they can use, you know, different parts of the body to assist with the process, you know. And as Tom Novella alluded to earlier, you know, you can cheat, or you can disguise or dress things up differently
But only
from
for
a dance.
so long.
Of course, but
Because
when you're looking for you know, when you're looking for root causes of persistent injury, pain,
Stress fractures,
or
career-ending injuries.
Yeah, or
you know,
if-
it
or
could
if
be
you're
it could
looking-
be in the foot, but if you're not checking the hip,
Yeah.
or the lower back mechanics,
Yeah, yeah.
then you're compensating. Then it's
Absolutely.
So no point treating the symptom on the pain part. Let's look somewhere else in the system.
Yeah, and that's you know, I mean, like a foot that's underperforming. If you're searching for optimal performance, it's to try and kind of, you know, awaken that foot, that sleeping giant, in terms of movement, and that's what resonated with me most about what Gary Ward does
The
with anatomy and
misunderstood
motion.
foot, I think he described it as. The
Yeah.
still misunderstood.
Yeah,
Because we still, it's
but Gary's thought process kind of flips conventional thinking and
Yes.
teaching.
joints
and,
act, joints
act.
move to give muscles something to do.
Yeah, but I mean it. But
If
to
somebody
me,
hasn't seen that, it's a very, very interesting
yeah, but his
re-look for another way around it, whole body mechanics. Yeah, that was just
Yeah.
joints move to give muscles something to do. Really? No, everybody's taught muscles move the joints, but
yeah.
yeah.
So to me, as a dancer, and from a movement perspective, it made complete sense.
Yes.
And
Because you could cue somebody to change their shoulder position and to change their in
definitely
the whole.
posturally, it had huge. I could see very early on. But I mean, Gary and Chris certainly on my first day there, I was a basket case is the only way I could describe it, because my world had been turned upside down a number of times with their thought process and their approach.
Because you were, I mean, you thought you knew all about dance and mechanics and
You're coming from a dancing
posture and
background.
control.
You're coming from a personal training background, strength and conditioning, and then all of a sudden, you know,
you're in an elite field where the
Yeah.
normal traditional treatments are based on
But conventional,
traditional route
yeah.
and podiatric and PT biomechanic theory and training.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now these guys were coming at it.
That's parked to one side, and they've come at it from a completely different angle and perspective. And you know, as I said, you know, beyond the first day, I started to see the potential that it had for me as a dancer and for the dancing community as a whole in relation to offering solutions from a movement point of view, from a postural point of view, in order to get and also to try and optimize performance and get the most out of their movement by kind of reintroducing movements that they weren't necessarily accessing
Yes.
each and every day.
Because because again, every sports person, every dancer, they're always carrying some niggle or some injury, or they're always aware of that
Yeah.
their turnout isn't quite as good, that their control on one side isn't, and they do have to cue themselves to correct themselves as well. But
Yeah.
again, if you make it as natural as breathing, you don't have to think. Then you're a lot more control.
Yeah, I love the individual approach that they had. Each and every person is
no cookie cutter.
is set. Yeah, each and every person is set differently. Each and every person has something different going on, or variations of. We're creatures of habit, and our everyday activities affect and are integrated into our everyday movements.
Yeah, because that was the thing, and again, even in traditional biomechanics and gait analysis and force plates and stuff, the foot strike's pretty much the same. There's not very much variation between the foot, your own individual. It's like a fingerprint nearly. It's like nearly as individual through your foot mechanics on look at on a force pressure time graph. But so that repetitive thing. So that's sort of something that just comes naturally. So to actually alter that then is
well, it's not so much to alter it, but to challenge what's there and what's happening, and the way the foot and the joints within the foot are articulating with their movement, and to try and give it every opportunity to function to its most efficient.
Yes.
And from a dancing point of view, I started to see the benefits of that, even some of the simplest things, and something that can appear in the upper body, as you said, maybe a shoulder, so it appears to be a postural issue, can actually be remedied down in the foot.
Yeah.
So,
and of course, vice versa.
Of course,
Yeah.
And that everything was part of the one pattern of movement. Everything was linked, and by making small adjustments, you were seeing.
Yeah, because it's not completely. I mean, especially at a level of dancers you're working at. I mean, we're not completely stripping it down and rebuilding it.
I don't think you have to. But
it's
I mean,
only,
but that's what
small.
people want.
It's the small 1%. It's the little.
And that's the stuff that makes a difference at the very top level of
because I mean,
competition.
with people getting more aware of what's available in terms of anatomy and motion and other modalities to actually, there's such a demand now. I mean, you're in the States 2-3 times a year working with dancers. I mean,
yeah, definitely. I go over, periodically. Work with a couple of different schools.
Seeing multiple dancers over a weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, could see maybe 30 dancers over a weekend.
Yeah.
I do it in 90-minute sessions. It's one-on-one. Have the teacher there. Parents can come in if they want.
You've got to help the teacher as well to identify.
Yeah. But I think for me, it's important that they're part of the process. I mean, if I have their input into what they would like to see the dancer do, what their concerns are, where they would like to see improvements made.
Yeah. Because I'm not going to say this in a bad way, but again, everybody who's, I mean, and again, anybody who in the ballet world or the jazz you can see the difference between, you can identify talent at a very young age.
Oh yeah, the raw material
you make
is there.
world champions. What takes to make a world champion, Pat?
I mean, there's a number of things.
A
number of things.
We've covered a lot before. They've got to be driven. They've got to want it.
Driven and focused. But I mean, to have a really good grasp of basics from a young age, to have good timing, good turnout, and other technical aspects, like the posture is huge in Irish dancing. So to have good control and form in terms of your upper body, to be musical, to have good rhythm. It's hugely important.
That was what Tom said. You got he talked about one of his guys who was the musicality.
Yeah.
That was one of the things about ballet dancers. They got to be able to react to the music and change.
It's an essential part of the puzzle. Yeah, part of the equation. And I mean, they need to be prepared to commit. Particularly when they get to 11, 12 years, and
that's when things really ramp up.
And it can be difficult because you've got so many other things going on in life.
Yep.
From education, and as you said earlier, you've got
raging,
growth spurts, hormones,
social media, Fortnite.
But the growth spurt, interestingly, can create all sorts of postural issues where they nearly have to come to terms with their new body.
Yeah, because bone grows quicker than muscle, so muscle takes time to catch up.
Yeah.
So I mean, flexibility-wise, but it's also strength.
Yeah.
Because we got away a lot in the last number of years of stretching stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference probably.
But certainly from static stretching, I think has kind of taken a back seat.
More dynamic in a triplanar movement.
Yeah. But certainly trying to kind of maintain that triplanar movement, and I think a little bit of stretching, conditioning to try and help the body as much as possible.
And changing the load.
Yeah.
Again, that through the season, the monitoring of the load.
Definitely.
Of course, there's a lot of technological advances now coming where we can monitor load and monitor things, but that's a talk for another day.
Definitely.
That's extremely fascinating.
I've been using software since 2016, and it's something that I'm very excited about. I can't really go into too much detail at the minute, but I will.
We'll come back and chat about that later.
Over the next.
So to start with, so regarding Venezuela and our colleague down there, Aurelio, in Barranquilla, I think I pronounced it right, wants to know in terms of, and that relates to what we just talked about, medial tibial stress syndrome, shin splints, shin pain. What can we do? Do you have any recommendations in treating any dance patients or any patients really who in terms of maintaining can you maintain the dance load on that?
Very difficult
is it
actually.
possible?
Yeah, shin splints can be a real awkward injury to get. I suppose in terms of prehab to kind of increase dorsiflexion range at the ankle.
Because that's essential. I mean, ankle equinus. I mean, the talus, the astrovalus, the center of the universe. If it's not,
that's it. Yeah.
Triplanarly working to its full range.
Yeah.
It's going to screw everything else up.
And again, just to what we talked about earlier in terms of being up on demi-point or on the ball of the foot. I mean, we have the heavy shoe, which has a heel that's 1.25 inches high, but sometimes they spend so much time on the ball of their foot. When they go back into a normal shoe and they exert themselves physically in other aspects of life, whether it's walking, running, that can tend to flare up.
So a lot of posterior impingement syndrome
kind
of stuff.
So that can
because I mean, it's again the talus in terms of
contribute to it.
triplanar, and as you said, ankle sprains. Ankle sprains is the most common problem, lower limb injury that most people will experience in their life. They'll turn an ankle and think nothing of it. But the sequelae of what will happen to that in terms of the slight anterior shift of the talus and the whole foot mechanics out of that.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't. I said there was no ligamentous attachment on the talus. It's not. I got it wrong when I talked to Tom. There's no muscular attachment to hold the talus. It's all ligamentous. So we used to see that when we X-rayed feet. Donated foot, anteriorly tilted in the ankle joint mortise. Stops dorsiflexion. Has a whole sequelae.
It's the most
sagittal plane mechanics.
It's the most influential bone in the whole body, in my opinion, for directional movement.
Center of the universe.
Yeah.
And again, somebody will sprain their ankle when they're 10 or 11, go over a little thing, think nothing of it.
Yeah.
It's not until 5-10 years later that it's going to come.
That's it. Yeah.
But even I think that as a whole knock-on.
Talus movement in terms of turnout. I mean, the influence that it has in terms of turnout, and that's something that the Irish dance community haven't cottoned on to yet. Internal rotation of the talus, external rotation of the foot, external rotation of the hip. So
because that was fascinating in Tom's when I first heard him lecture, was the too good turnout, the too good foot.
Yeah.
Excess motion that most people can't achieve, and the sequelae of that. Because in training, we were always taught about things were restricted and work didn't get the full range. Now we're talking about working outside range. Because I mean, again, the flexibility, of course, probably isn't as much as some dance modalities, but flexibility and.
In Irish dance? Oh, it's huge.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay,
huge. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's huge. But just
I've seen ballet dancers at 12 who just take legs straight up over their ear.
Yeah,
that's a different.
But again,
because they need to access different ranges.
But Irish dance you need to be able to kick your foot over your head.
And then how does that then tie in then with that skeletal maturity and that sort of growth spurts? And
I mean,
is that when you see most injuries sort of?
Again, it'll depend on in my opinion, it depends on the way the individual's structurally set up.
Yeah. Their envelope of performance.
One of the things that I see with Irish dancers is in terms of flexibility, sometimes they can't posterior tilt.
Get your pelvis moving
beyond neutral, if you like. and that's going to inhibit
whatever neutral is.
That's going to inhibit their leg extension, their ability to kind of
because the way the hamstring is attached into and the whole sort of
but
chain.
just structurally, the pelvis is forced to posterior tilt in movements like that, and if structurally you're set up in a certain way, if the range is not there, then that's what you need to work on more. The structural range of movement that you have more so than the flexibility will come as a knock-on effect of that.
And then again, is that difficult then because of the particular posture or that you would be judged on at that level? Is that very difficult then to?
Again, all of these movements need to be executed with a still upper body.
Yeah.
So that
has a huge influence.
And that's where a lot of kids technically will run into difficulty.
So what are the main technical?
In terms of postural issues, carriage issues, sagittal plane movement. Frontal plane movement. It's a huge no-no. Transverse plane movement.
No.
It's completely frowned upon.
Okay.
But nobody, as I said, that was the thing that really got me from Gary's Anatomy in Motion. Just the potential that it had to reintroduce movement as a solution to excessive movement issues or restricted movement issues was huge. To solve one problem with by moving things around. It was to me it was fantastic.
And again, get the body to do it rather than trying to put something in the shoe to help with the compensation, a neck pad or a strap or a bar or whatever your choice of something. I remember trying to get wedges into the heels of shoes and things, or again to offload very thin pour-on insoles with maybe a donut stuck on, because it lasts longer if you don't stick it onto the foot. But very, very challenging to try and treat traditionally.
But to give the individual the tools, if you like, to kind of to manage these issues going forward themselves. For me, is huge, and that's the thing. Again, that a dancer will continually kind of they'll dial in and they'll check in with themselves, and they're trying to monitor these things themselves. In terms of movement, range of movement, flexibility, strength, stamina.
But having the outside expert eye cast again can give them more feedback and information.
Absolutely, and sometimes just changing their point of focus can be enough to kind of to give them something new to think about within a moment. So particularly in terms of big jumps and so to kind of change their thought process in relation to going into it.
It's so much huge load, huge forces, and then the amount of training they have to do, and the amount of it's a whole.
It's a huge commitment. I mean, it can be 5-6 days a week.
Some days 7. Because Tom sort of touched on it again. Then the pushy parents. Who want the kid to be in Riverdance. There's a lot of that goes on in any sports now at any level.
So my aunt famously said in an interview, over 20 years ago, that her ideal dance student would come from an orphanage because they wouldn't have parents.
Really?
But of course, sometimes the parents want it more than the kids.
And there's a lot of pressure there that goes along with that.
So I think, but the kid needs to want it. I think every kid wants it on the big day. But it's on the days when you're kind of on your own and
because again, to be 8, 9, 10 years of age and have to get up and perform on that day and absolutely nail it. I mean, there's so much that has gone into that just very small, limited time performance.
Of course.
I mean, the psychologically and how they cope with that is a huge part of.
And it's amazing to watch them. I mean, they're so determined, so focused, even at that age.
Laser beam focus.
It's
I mean,
incredible.
It's eyes on the prize.
And you know, and I suppose what it brings to them in later life in terms of, you know, confidence, and in terms of, you know, what they can achieve, and the goal setting that you know becomes part of professional life for them as adults.
Because again, there is
huge benefits.
There is that, we talked about at the start of the interview, there is that now, there's, you're world champion dancer now, there is a career after this in Irish dancing now.
No, there is, yeah.
Whether it's teaching around the world,
Teaching,
you've got friends in
adjudicating.
Barcelona, adjudicating, as we talked about South America, I mean, it's all over
China,
the world.
I mean,
China,
you name it,
huge.
Russia, huge Irish dancing.
But to perform as well,
Yeah.
to have a career now to go into, which wasn't in Irish dancing before, is
Definitely,
huge.
yeah.
Because again,
Yeah.
ballet companies have existed for centuries.
Yes, yeah. But they're the leaders. I mean, you know, they're constantly pushing the
And there's
boundaries
a
of
crossover
dance and
between, I
movement.
mean, you came across a
Definitely.
few ballerinas in your time in New York. Did you get stuff from them? Did you ever visit companies, or did they come to see you? I'm sure they did.
We were lucky enough to work with some Russian dancers that had been trained by the Moziev Academy in Russia.
Yeah.
So I got a lot from their approach to things.
Yeah.
And I think now that's probably most relevant to the way that Irish dance is transformed as an art form.
Mm-hmm.
That there are huge elements across training. You know, and they've taken.
Medical aspects, rehab, prehab, the
but-
whole conditioning,
and
the whole diet, the whole, I mean, it's it's at another level now.
Choreography, it's, you know, the choreography has been changed and influenced by ballet, by tap, by
Jazz,
you
Latin
know,
American stuff.
and
Because there's been a whole Latin American theme in one of the shows in Riverdance. I mean, there's a whole
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal. It's just not Irish. So, we've covered quite a lot today, Pat. we've got through. So,
Yeah.
you know, if somebody wants to be a world champion, Pat, how do
Yeah.
they contact you?
contact me, info@patroddy.ie.
Yep. Through all our social
Yeah.
platforms and things, they can
Yeah,
contact me.
check me out, patroddy.ie. Contact Justin.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions or anything that we didn't think we covered enough or wanted to hear more of out of this, then I can forward on the questions to you. And we can answer them on
Yeah,
social
yeah,
stuff.
but
I'm sure we will revisit this, especially with as we alluded to, the technology now that is going to again continue to push the envelope in dance medicine and sports medicine and Irish dancing. And
Definitely, yeah, it's exciting. It's really exciting, and as I said,
We'll keep you
it
posted.
gives
It's gonna be awesome.
gives the dancer, the athlete, an opportunity to train in a more informed way.
You can identify stuff from the stats that are produced, so that you don't.
Yeah.
You can. You pick things up early that you don't even feel that they aren't aware of yet.
It's amazing, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
well, we'll get
it's
to that.
amazing. So I'm very excited about that. And if anybody, particularly within the ballet community, wants to reach out in relation to that, I would hope to have kind of movement on it, if you like, over the next month.
Yes.
But
Because
so if
I
they
think
want to-
we're going to be doing something next year, stateside with dancers. I
Okay.
mean, that's in the pipeline. It's since our previous talk. So that was something to look forward to when we're allowed to travel again. So Pat, that was, as always, it's a pleasure. I learned so much
Justin,
every
thank you.
time.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that people enjoyed it at home as well.
Cool. Great. Thanks everybody.
Cheers.
That's it till the next time.
Thank you.